Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into a really tough topic, the mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine,
Yeah.
back on October 25th. But obviously, it's a tough topic to talk about,
Right.
but it's important that we try to understand, what happened and why.
Absolutely.
And we have an amazing article here from Investor
Yeah.
that brings together a lot of different reporting from various news outlets and different investigations.
It really does a good job of compiling all of the facts.
Yeah.
And I think, with a deep dive like this, we can hopefully start to understand, the events themselves, the factors that led up to this tragedy,
Right.
and what it means, for the bigger conversations about mental health, gun control, community resilience. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, there really is. And some of the details are just so chilling. I mean, you were talking about a shooter with military training, friends and family who saw these warning signs in a local deaf community that was just devastated by this.
Absolutely.
But before we get into all of that,
Right.
let's start by laying out the timeline of the shooting itself.
Yeah, let's lay that groundwork. I think it's important to remember that, these are real people.
Yeah.
Real lives that were lost and dozens more injured.
Right.
And it all started at this place called Just in Time Bowling.
Right. And from what I read in the article, I mean, it was all over incredibly quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, the shooter, Robert Card, opened fire, and in just 35 seconds,
Right.
8 people were dead and 3 more injured. He then fled the scene.
And this is where we start to see that concept of leakage that often comes up with mass shootings. There are warning signs, hints that something is wrong, but they're often missed or just dismissed entirely.
Yeah.
And in Card's case, the attack was just so swift, brutal, and so calculated.
Right.
It suggests a level of premeditation that's really disturbing.
It's terrifying to think about how quickly everything changed for the people at that bowling alley. And he didn't stop there, did he? He drove to Schemmegee's Bar and Grill and continued shooting.
Unfortunately, no, he did not. And in total, he fired 36 shots.
Wow.
Resulting in 10 more deaths. And then 10 more people were injured before it was all over.
God. It's hard to even fathom the chaos and terror that those people must have experienced.
Absolutely.
And the entire shooting spree from the bowling alley to the bar was over in just 78 seconds.
Just 78 seconds. And what makes it even more disturbing is the fact that Card was an Army Reserve veteran and a trained marksman.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that level of skill and efficiency is just, it's bone-chilling.
It really is. I mean, this was just someone acting impulsively.
Right.
There was planning involved. And then after that, he disappeared, right? Yeah. Leading to this 2-day manhunt.
A 2-day manhunt, yeah. And they eventually found him dead, which left so many questions unanswered.
Yeah.
Why did this happen? What led him to this point? This is where we start to see, these patterns emerge, these missed opportunities that might have changed the course of events.
Yeah, it's like a tragic puzzle that we're trying to piece together.
Yeah.
To understand what happened in Lewiston, we need to understand Robert Card, the man behind the gun.
Exactly. And thankfully, we have these really incredible investigations from sources like Maine Public Radio, the Portland Press-Herald, and Frontline. They really started uncovering these warning signs that were unfortunately missed.
These missed opportunities. That's a chilling way to put it, but you're right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was completely off the radar. People close to him saw these changes.
Yeah.
He was becoming increasingly paranoid, accusing people of things, isolating himself.
Yeah, and when we talk about these systemic failures, we're not just pointing fingers.
Right.
We're talking about the ways in which our institutions, from mental health care to law enforcement, weren't adequately equipped to really prevent this tragedy.
So it's more about a breakdown in the system than any one person's fault.
Exactly.
And it wasn't just random people noticing. Card's friend, Sean Hodgson, who was also in the Army Reserve, reported Card's behavior to authorities. But it seems like nothing came of it. I mean, that must be devastating to think about.
It really highlights how even when people do recognize these signs, the systems we have in place sometimes fail to connect the dots and take appropriate action.
And it gets even more heartbreaking because it wasn't just his friend. Card's ex-wife, Carol Lamb, received messages from their son expressing fear for his own safety around his father. So there were multiple people, family, friends, who were worried, who saw these red flags.
It's awful. And, the investigations also revealed that, both mental health professionals and law enforcement were aware of Card's deteriorating mental state.
Wow. So it wasn't a lack of awareness. People knew something was wrong.
Exactly. But no significant action was taken. And this is where we need to examine those systemic failures more closely. What prevented effective intervention?
Right.
Why didn't these warnings lead to action?
Yeah.
This is a major focus of our deep dive today.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly sad.
Yeah. It's very sad.
Yeah. It really is heartbreaking to think about how many lives might have been saved if those warning signs had actually led to real intervention.
Yeah.
We really have to ask ourselves, what can we do differently?
Yeah.
What are the lessons here? And one of those lessons, I think, involves taking a closer look at the mental health challenges faced by those who serve in the military.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, we know Card wasn't just any veteran.
Right.
He was responsible for training cadets, which I mean, that comes with a lot of pressure, potential stress.
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate a little bit on the connection between military service and mental health?
Sure. What's important to remember is that PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is a very real condition, and it's a serious condition that can develop after exposure to traumatic events. And for those in the military, the risk of experiencing such events is just significantly higher. The intensity of the training, the potential for deployment to combat zones. I mean, these are all factors that can contribute to mental health struggles.
It makes you think about Card's friend, Sean Hodgson, who we know was also struggling with PTSD. It seems like there's a real need for more awareness and more support for our veterans.
Absolutely. The transition back to civilian life can be incredibly difficult. And there's often a stigma associated with seeking help for mental health issues.
Especially in the military, right?
Especially in the military.
Right.
Where strength and resilience are so highly valued.
Yeah. So seeking help might be seen as a sign of weakness.
Right.
Which could prevent people from getting the support they need.
Exactly.
It's almost like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
You've got a higher risk of mental health challenges.
Right.
Coupled with a culture that discourages people from seeking help.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this brings us to another uncomfortable but essential question. The role of guns in this tragedy.
That's a complex issue for sure.
Yeah.
But the fact is that Robert Card, despite his documented mental health struggles and all the warning signs that were there, he was able to obtain firearms.
Yeah, it raises serious questions about how we as a society approach gun control and what measures we have in place to try to prevent tragedies like this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It forces us to confront these difficult questions about access to firearms, the effectiveness of background checks, the types of weapons that are just so readily available.
Yeah, this is a conversation that we as a society really need to have.
Yeah, and it feels like the Lewiston shooting just adds more weight to that conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not about taking sides.
Right.
It's about finding solutions that can help prevent future tragedies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while we're talking about these larger societal issues, we can't lose sight of the very real and devastating impact that this event had on the deaf community in Lewiston.
Yeah.
4 of the victims at the bar were deaf.
Right.
Or hard of hearing.
I was particularly struck by Megan Vazella's account of the shooting.
Oh, yeah.
She's one of the survivors. And she talked about how she and her friends tried to escape, like crawling for safety while all of this was happening around them.
Wow.
It's hard to imagine the terror and vulnerability that they must have felt.
It's a stark reminder that in moments of crisis, marginalized communities are often at even greater risk.
Yeah.
This tragedy really underscores the need for more inclusive emergency response planning.
Right.
For systems that actually take into account the specific needs of diverse communities.
Yeah, it's a powerful point. We need to make sure that everyone has a chance to escape, to survive during events like this.
Yeah.
But as we continue this deep dive, I'm wondering about solutions.
Yeah.
What concrete steps can we take to prevent future tragedies?
Yeah.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of these problems.
You're right. It can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
But there are things we can do.
Yeah.
First and foremost, we need to shift our perspective on mental health.
Okay.
We need to recognize that it is health. You know, it's not a weakness. It's not something to be ashamed of.
Yeah, it's like we need to create a culture where it's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely.
And where seeking help is actually seen as a sign of strength, not weakness.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective needs to happen at all levels.
Right.
Within families, communities, and especially in our institutions.
Yeah.
We need to make mental health care more accessible, more affordable, and much less stigmatized.
It's about breaking down those barriers.
Yeah.
And ensuring that anyone who needs help can actually get it without shame or judgment. But what else can we do? I mean, aside from improving mental health care, what other steps can we take to address the issue of gun violence?
Well, we have to be willing to have those difficult conversations about gun control. It's a complex issue, you know. There's strong opinions on all sides. But we can't just keep ignoring it.
Right.
We need to find ways to keep firearms out of the hands of individuals who pose a danger to themselves or to others.
It's not about taking away everyone's guns.
That's right.
It's about responsible gun ownership and common sense measures that can help prevent tragedies. Things like universal background checks, red flag laws, waiting periods. These are all things we need to seriously consider.
I agree. And let's not forget about the specific needs of our veterans.
Right.
We need to provide better mental health resources.
Yeah.
Tailored to their experiences and ensure that they have access to the support they deserve.
It's about recognizing the sacrifices they've made.
Absolutely.
And the unique challenges that they face when returning to civilian life.
Right.
We owe it to them to provide the best possible care and support. But beyond these institutional changes, what can we do as individuals?
Yeah, that's a great question.
How can we make a difference in our own communities?
I think it starts with awareness, and a willingness to engage in these difficult conversations. You know, talk to your friends and family about mental health.
Right.
Educate yourself about the warning signs of someone who might be in crisis. Advocate for better mental health resources in your community.
It's about creating a culture of support.
Absolutely.
A culture where people feel comfortable reaching out for help and where they know they're not alone.
And don't underestimate the power of simply listening.
Right.
Sometimes just having someone who will listen without judgment can make all the difference in the world. It's about fostering a sense of connection and recognizing that we all have a role to play in creating a safer and more compassionate world.
So it's a combination of individual action, community involvement, and systemic change.
Exactly.
It's a multifaceted approach. But one that I think offers hope.
You're absolutely right. The Lewiston shooting was a horrific event. It was a senseless tragedy. That left a community just shattered. But if we can learn from it, if we can use it as a catalyst for positive change, then perhaps some good can come from this unimaginable loss.
It's about honoring the victims by working to prevent future tragedies, by creating a world where everyone feels safe and supported.
That's a powerful message to end on. The Lewiston shooting was a wake-up call. It was a reminder of the fragility of life, and the importance of community, compassion, and action.
And it's a reminder that we're not powerless. We all have a role to play in preventing these tragedies and in creating a better future. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the Lewiston tragedy.
Absolutely.
We hope this conversation will continue both within yourselves and within your communities.